This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Mar Rabbi, welcome everyone. Parshas Kisisa. So we're going to start a new minhag. Baruch Hashem, Shechianu v'kimanu v'yanu lazman hazeh. Today on Tu B'Shvat, we're zoiche that right across the street, if you take a look to the left, you'll see that steel went up today. That means the binyan started today on the Rosh Hashanah Le'ilanos, which we learned last night is Rosh Hashanah for Chidushei Torah. So if everybody here and anybody listening, there are many sponsorship opportunities that are still available. And a shul is a very hard sell, but Baruch Hashem, if you feel that you benefit from the shul or the shiurim, we know the shiurim get out there. It's people listen in many places. So we hope somebody out there would like perhaps to take a sponsorship opportunity or help us in whatever way you can. And you'll have a zechus in the Torah and the tefillah that take place in our new binyan for many years to come. Okay, Parshas Kisisa. We're going to learn a little bit about Shabbos. Yisro, exactly, right. Parshas Yisro. Just making sure you're listening. Because usually after an appeal, people tune out. So, fine. Parshas Yisro. Sheishas Yamim Tavoid. 6 days you should work. And do all of your business. So it's a chiddush to many people. 6 days you should work. In the Ksuba it says, Ano eflach, I'm going to work. Somebody once told me, there's some people they read it, Ano eflach, I'm going to work, There are different ways of reading it. But here, the Torah is not Lashon Bitmiyah. 6 days you work. V'yayim hashvi, Shabbos Hashem lekecha. And the 7th day is Shabbos. Fine, very nice. Says Gemara Masechta Shabbos, Daf Samach Tesam Aves. Amar Rav Huna, Hayim mahalech b'midbar, you're going in the desert. And you lost cheshbon. Well, cell phones? Well, I don't know, you have Sprint, you don't have good service. Ve'enu yodea imosai Shabbos. And you don't know when Shabbos is. You lost the account, you don't have a calendar. And you don't have service. It's one of these places. So now you don't know what day it is. You fell asleep, you woke up, you don't know. Chani Amagal, you have no idea what's going on. You don't know what day it is. So what do? What about Shabbos? Mayna shisha yamim u'mishamer yom echad. Count 6 days and observe the 7th day. Fine. That's the opinion of Huna. Chia barav amar, no. Mishamer yom echad, keep 1 day Shabbos, u'mayna shisha, and count 6 days. So either you count 6 days and observe the Shabbos, or you observe the Shabbos and you count 6 days. Says the Gemara, what's the machlokes about? Says the Gemara, Rav Huna holds the way the world was created. The world was created 6 days of Brias HaOlam, 7th day Shabbos. And Chia Barav says no, like Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon woke up, he had no idea what day it was, the next day is Shabbos, and then he counted 6 days. So Rav Huna says, like the creation of the world, Chia Barav says, like Adam Arishon. Then the Gemara has a shaila, the Gemara has a question, because ultimately Gemara brings a brisa that says explicitly you count 6 days, and then you observe the Shabbos. So it says the Gemara, Tiyufta, the Chia Barav Tiyufta. Chia Barav is basically refuted, he's wrong. The correct shita is Rav Huna, that you count 6 days and you observe Shabbos as the 7th day. So now the question is, this guy has absolutely no idea when Sunday is, when Monday is, when Tuesday is. His Shabbos is just arbitrary. He picked a day. He counted 6 days and he counted the 7th day of Shabbos. So does he work the whole week? Does he not work the whole week? What does his week look like? Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, B'chol yom v'yom oisaloi kedei parnasasai. Every day, you can only work the bare minimum. Why? Because we're choishish. Every day might be Shabbos. So if every day might be Shabbos, you really shouldn't be working at all. Every day is a suffix d'oraisa. Elamai, if you don't work, you're going to die because you need money to buy food, right? Everybody knows that Emein kamach ein Torah, Emein kamach ein chayim. So the guy has to work just the bare minimum to be able to sustain him. So the Gemara says he works every day kedei parnasasai, for his parnasa, except for Shabbos, except for the 7th day, meaning the 7th day that he has ascribed as Shabbos and considered Shabbos basically arbitrarily, he doesn't even work the bare minimum to keep him alive. So I'll give you an example. Let's say to stay alive, you need a slice of bread and 3/4 of a cup of milk, let's say. So every day, he could work until he makes, let's say, $2.63. The moment he makes that requisite sum, he has to stop working. Comes Shabbos, he's not even allowed to work the $2.63. So Gemara says, so what's the guy supposed to do on Shabbos? Supposed to die on Shabbos? Says Gemara, no, Taka, every day he could work the bare minimum. All the first 6 days and the 7th day. Every day he works the bare minimum, not 1 ounce of energy more than what is exactly needed for that day. There's no saving up. There's no, there's a sale, I'm going to work more today. The prices are better today. Every day is a separate cheshbon. He cannot work any more. So that is what... that's what the Gemara says. So in fact, the Gemara, the obvious kasha, the kasha is, so then in what way is his 7th day different than the rest of the 6? I mean, how is it Shabbos? He counted 6 and then the 7th, but he's working the exact same amount every single day. Says the Gemara, no problem. B'kiddusha v'avdalta. On the 7th day, he makes kiddush and he makes havdalah. He's not working any less on his 7th day, on his Shabbos. Doesn't matter. He makes kiddush on the 7th day. He makes havdalah on the 7th day. We're going to come back to that. What kind of kiddush is he making? What does havdalah look like? Now, one thing is for sure, when he's making havdalah, he's holding the kais in the right hand. We learned this on Shabbos. And the besamim in the left hand, until he gets up to the bracha of besamim. And then when he gets to the bracha of besamim, he puts the besamim in the right hand and the kais in the left hand. And so we had a whole shiur on that on Shabbos, the correct way to make havdalah. Anyway, but now's not the time. The question is going to be, could he make a bracha? When he makes kiddush, and when he makes havdalah, is he going to say the Shem Hashem, or is he not going to say the Shem? How could he say the Shem Hashem? It's a suffix. It's a suffix Shabbos. Chances are it's not Shabbos. Like 85%, it's not Shabbos. 6 out of 7, it's not Shabbos. If you're a betting man, there's no way this guy got it right. So how could he make it's like ruba de ruba, it's a bracha levatala. So when the Gemara says he makes kiddush and havdalah, can he say Hashem's name or not? We'll come to that momentarily. And then Rava says one final chiddush. Says Rava, let's say the guy has no idea what day is today, but he knows what day he left. Meaning, he knows that today is the 8th day since he left. Now, if he knows today is the 8th day since he left, meaning he knows, let's say today, whatever today is, I left a week ago on the same day. He doesn't know what today is. He just knows the day that he left was a week ago today. So then what does he know? He knows for sure today is not Shabbos, because there's no way he left on Shabbos. He's not a Mechala Shabbos. So he knows today is not Shabbos. Says the Gemara, then on this day, he could work the whole day even more than Kedei Parnasasai. So Gemara asks, Pshita, of course he could work the whole day. It's not Shabbos. So Gemara says, yeah, but I would think that the same way a person doesn't leave on Shabbos, he also doesn't leave on Friday. So if he knows today that he left a week ago, then by the same token, if today is not Shabbos, there is no way that he would have left Friday either. So he knows that today, meaning in other words, he knows 2 days he didn't leave. So then he should be able to work 2 days. And the Gemara says, no. Sometimes a person would leave on Shabbos, sometimes the caravans leave on Shabbos. It is possible he left on Friday, but Shabbos it's not possible that he left. So if he knows that he left a week ago today, he's allowed to work on today. He's allowed to work the whole day. Okay, so let's talk about this guy's Kiddush and Havdalah. By the way, on this guy's 7th day that he's making Kiddush and Havdalah, is he putting on tefillin on that day? Like, does he wear tefillin on that day? After all, he, in his mind, he's ascribing that today is Shabbos. So is he going to wear tefillin? So the Chafetz Chaim in the Be'er Halacha says, yes, he's going to wear tefillin. Why? Because if he wasn't going to wear tefillin, then the Gemara should have said that you know how the 7th day looks different by him? That he doesn't wear tefillin on the 7th day. The fact that the Gemara didn't say that the 7th day is different because he doesn't wear tefillin, that's a raya. He wears tefillin. So listen, look at his Shabbos. His Shabbos, he's wearing tefillin. But what about the Kiddush and the Havdalah? What kind of Kiddush? Will he really actually say the name of Hashem? But it's a suffix. It's going to be a suffix bracha levatala. So the Ritva asked this question. Take a look at number 3. And the Ritva says, V'em taimar, how could you say a bracha misafik? Now the truth is that this is not a regular bracha, even though typically Safek bracha Sahakel, that's only a bracha d'Rabbanan. But let's say a person ate, and he's not sure if he benched or not. You have to bench again. Safek bracha Sahakel. No, Birchas Hamazon's d'Oraisa. Safek Birchas Hamazon l'chumra. Kiddush Friday night. What is it? D'Oraisa or d'Rabbanan? It's d'Oraisa. So maybe Safek d'Oraisa l'chumra, and you should say Kiddush. Says the Ritva, no. Safek d'Oraisa l'chumra is only when you're vaday chayiv and you're not sure if you fulfilled your chayiv or not. But in this case, you don't know if you even chayiv in Kiddush in the first place. It might not even be Shabbos. You don't say Safek d'Oraisa l'chumra. And therefore the Ritva gives two answers. Answer number one is, Taka, you could make a bracha. And then the Ritva says, no, don't make a bracha, don't say Hashem's name. The Ritva has a tzad to say that you're not going to say Hashem's name. You're going to make Kiddush, you're going to say, that, Baruch Atah, Melech HaOlam, Asher Kiddushanu, Barat Sabanu, B'Shavas Kodesh B'Yav V'Ratzon. You do not say the name of Hashem, says the Ritva. How can you say Hashem's name?
Why don't you make on tefillin and then bracha?
On tefillin, you're going to wear the tefillin. I didn't discuss the bracha on tefillin. L'chayra, on tefillin also you don't make a bracha. But here the Ritva is saying it's sad. You don't make a bracha on Kiddush. After all, Safek bracha is lahakel. But Rashi comes along, and this is what the Shiur is going to be about. Rashi says, you know what this guy's Kiddush and Havdalah looks like? Take a look at number 4. Lezikaroin ba'alma. You know why you're making Kiddush? It's not a real Kiddush. This is not, what's a real Kiddush? A real Kiddush is where you're chayiv to make Kiddush. You're obligated to make Kiddush. No, this is not a real Kiddush. You know what this Kiddush is? It's a memorial. It's like it's a zikaron. It's a ritual. It's an ancient practice. Why? Because if this guy doesn't make Kiddush, then in no way does his 7th day look any different than any other day. So says Rashi, Lizikaron ba'alma. It's just a memorial, sheyeheloi shem yoim chalok mishar yomim, so that this day should look different than the other days. V'loi tishtakach Shabbos mimenu, and Shabbos should not be forgotten from him. Now, looking at the words of Rashi, would you say Rashi holds you say Hashem's name? Or does Rashi say, no, you don't say Hashem's name? I don't know if it's so clear from Rashi what Rashi holds that you would say Hashem's name. Rashi's saying it's not a real Kiddush, it's just L'zikaron ba'alma. I think you could make the case that Rashi holds that you don't actually say Hashem's name. And yet, amazingly, if you look in the Mishnah Berurah, in the Sharat Tzion feels that these words of Rashi are bavarning the kasha of the Ritva. The Ritva asks, how in the world could you say Hashem's name? Rashi's answering, you know how you could say Hashem's name? This is not a regular Kiddush that you apply the rules of Safek d'Oraisa, Safek bracha Sahakel. This is a Kiddush of Zikaron ba'alma, and since it's Zikaron ba'alma, you're allowed to say the name of Hashem. So you got it? The Chafetz Chaim and the Sharat Tzion feels that this Rashi is saying that this guy in the Midbar, for all better intensive purposes, right? If let's say, there was a big game coming up, and you had to put your money down, and 85% you're going to lose your money. You're not going to bet, right? You're not going to bet on it, unless you're Meshugana. B'chlal, if you're betting on sports, you're Meshugana. That's a different story. But here Rashi's saying, I wouldn't have read Rashi this way. Rashi's saying this Kiddush is Zikaron ba'alma. So who says that means you could say the name of Hashem? No. The Chafetz Chaim says that Rashi is saying that since this Kiddush is Zikaron ba'alma, you're saying Hashem's name. So we're going to explain tonight is 2 phenomenal ideas of how this guy lost in the desert, has no clue that today's Shabbos. All he did was he said, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5, 6, 7, Shabbos! Even though chances are it's not Shabbos, how the guy can make Kiddush and say Hashem's name. What's the logic of such a thing?
What about Muslim?
What about B'chlau? Is the guy, what tefillos is the guy going to daven? Is he going to daven the V'chadika tefillah? Is he going to daven Atochen Antanu? Or is he going to daven the Shabbos tefillah with Musaf? Interesting, very interesting machlekes. That's the next part of the Shiur. So we're going to take a break from the Kiddush for a moment. Take a look at number 6. The Pri Megadim says, you should know that on the seventh day, he's going to daven the Shabbos to davening. And he's going to daven the Musaf to davening. And the guy's going to have the whole Shabbos. He's going to have herring, he's going to have gefilte fish, he's going to have... In other words, he only does that once a week. The Shabbos davening, he has once a week. And the Mishnah Berurah paskins this way. Because the Mishnah Berurah says that this halacha, that you make Kiddush on the seventh day, you make Kiddush ala yayin. And what if you don't have yayin? Says the Mishnah Berurah, biyotzei and tefillah. Because anyway, you're going to daven the Shabbos to davening like the Prima Gadim paskins. As we know, by the way, everybody knows that even though Kiddush Friday night is d'oraisa, by the time you get home, it's only d'Rabbanan. Why? Because you already yotzei the d'oraisa of mentioning Shabbos in the Friday night davening. That's the whole shaila. How could the husband be moitzi the wife? The husband's only chayiv in d'Rabbanan. The wife might be chayiv d'oraisa. I arvus. Right? The Noid of Yehuda says there's no arvus on... women don't have arvus. That's his famous kasha. But the shita of the Mishnah Berurah and the shita of the Prima Gadim is that you daven the Shabbos to davening. Comes the chida. Baruch Hashem was zoichet to be at the kever of the chida. Less than a week ago. No, more than a week ago. And the chida quotes Rav David Pardo. Who's Rav David Pardo? Rav David Pardo is the maskil of David. One of the Mefarshim on Rashi is the maskil of David. Right? You know, in English, in bibliography, you have a perush. On a perush is called a super commentary, right? So the maskil of David is called a super commentary. And he also wrote a halacha sefer called Lamnatseach LaDavid. And the maskil of David paskins, not like the Mishnah Berurah. He came well before the Mishnah Berurah. And the maskil of David paskins that on this Shabbos he's going to daven the weekday tefillah. Why? Loi mi boyi, the Yud Ches brachos that you're going to say. Because everybody knows that really on Shabbos we should be davening 18 brachos. Why don't we daven the 18 brachos on Shabbos? Tercha de tzibura. So there's nothing wrong really with saying the weekday tefillah on Shabbos. So this guy who doesn't even know that it's Shabbos, says the Maskil David, avada he davens the weekday tefillah. But not only that, says the Maskil David, you don't even mention Shabbos in the tefillah. Why? He's wearing tefillin. Again, so it comes out according to the Mishnah Berurah, a wild thing. The guy's wearing tefillin, davening the Shabbos to davening. Unless, just like by Rosh Chodesh, we take off the tefillin before Musaf, I don't know, maybe you take off the tefillin before Shachris. Right? I didn't think about that. But according to the Maskil David, it would come out, l'chayra the guy's wearing tefillin, and the guy's davening a weekday Shemona Esrei, and he's not even mentioning Shabbos. Okay, Rabbi, so let's come back to Kiddush. Because the Mishnah Berurah, the Sha'ar Tzion feels that according to Shitas Rashi, the guy's going to make the full-fledged Kiddush on his Shabbos, even though it's probably not Shabbos. Okay, Zemi, ready? Quick, get into it, yeah? It says that the guy's in the desert, he has no idea what day it is, so he doesn't know when Shabbos is. He counts 6 days, 7th day is Shabbos. It might not be Shabbos, 30 seconds. Might not be Shabbos, doesn't matter. 7th day is Shabbos. The Gemara says he makes Kiddush even. He makes Kiddush. Most Rishonim Rashi learns, the guy's going to say Hashem's name in Kiddush. So the shaila is, how could you say Hashem's name in Kiddush on this day, which is in all likelihood not Shabbos? So comes Rabbi Yosef Engel in the Gulyonei Hashas, and Rabbi Yosef Engel says an incredible thing. Let's talk about this guy's Shabbos. We would say, why is this guy observing Shabbos? It's just like a convention. He has to observe one day Shabbos. So, as a zikaron for the concept of Shabbos, he counts 6 days, and the 7th day is like a memorial to Saturdays, a memorial to Shabbos. No, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, it's more than that. For this gentleman, that day is Shabbos. It's not convention, it's reality. It's not convention, it's inherent. It's be'etzem. This is his Shabbos. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, look in the Magid Meisharim. It's a very interesting thing. Grada, Sashkacha Pratis. So I was learning from a sefer, Masois Yerushalayim. So it could be, Mr. Veg came, he brought me the last edition of the English Masois Yerushalayim today. You know what it says over here? It brings over here that the Munkacher said, Mamash on this, I didn't even chap. that everybody knows that Arizal was the Baki in Kabbalah, and the Beis Yosef was the Baal Shulchan Aruch. He's the big Baal Halacha. But really, it goes both ways. Why? Now, this is something Munkacher said. Nobody said it before him. Nobody said it after him. And he said it in this book. He said that the Arizal was such a Baki in Nigla that everything in Nigla he learned 6 times, and then the 7th time he did it al pi Kabbalah. That nobody learned Nigla like the Ari. The Ari learned Nigla 6 times. That's the Messiah from the Munkacher, in the Sefer.
He says that the only reason he was able to do that was he kissed his mother's hand every Friday night. Shabbos.
Yeah,
that's why he knew what he.
The Ari said, yeah.
Not because he learned, because he kissed his mother's hand.
The Ari said it's a good idea to kiss your mother's hand Friday nights. True. But, and the Beis Yosef, everybody knows is a Baal Shulchan Aruch, but the Beis Yosef had a Magid, he had a Malach that came to learn with him, Kabbalah. So the Beis Yosef deals with this issue. And the Malach has something to say about this. You know what the Malach said? Beis Yosef is bothered. Here you have an Eved Ivri. Eved Ivri, how long does an Eved Ivri work? 6 years. He goes free in the 7th year. Now he doesn't go free in Shemitah. He goes free in the 7th year. That means if you buy the Eved Ivri a year before Shemitah, the Eved's going to work for you during Shemitah. That means Shemitah doesn't free him. But what frees him? The 7th year. What do you mean the 7th year? Because this guy happened to have been bought 6 years ago. So this, you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will create a Shemitah that doesn't exist in anybody else's planet? Yes. This says the Malach to the Beis Yosef, the concept of Shabbos and Shemitah exists privately by every individual differently. Everybody has their own Shemitah. And if you bought this Eved, Echveis, in the middle of the Shemitah cycle, it doesn't matter if Shemitah interrupts in the middle. You're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7th is Shemitah for this guy and this Adain, even though it's not Shemitah for anybody else. Says the Malach, don't wonder about this. It's the same exact thing as the guy in the desert, where even though, for all intents and purposes, Ruba, this is not Shabbos. There's no way it's Shabbos. There's no way it's Shabbos. That's why he's wearing tefillin, because it's probably not Shabbos. But, Lagabe the Kedusha, the fact that he counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, creates in some way a reality of Shabbos. And Memela, you could make a bracha, you could say Hashem's name. Suffix bracha Hakel, but there's no suffix. Because there's no way for me to know when Shabbos is, today is my Shabbos. That's what the Malach told the Beis Yosef, Legabe Shemitah, bringing a raya from the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Samach Tes by the guy in the Midbar. So it's not convention that it's Shabbos, it's inherent that it's Shabbos.
You mean 6 days before him?
You need to count 6. The creation of Shabbos is, we're going to see, that as the Earth rotates 6 times, the 7th time is Shabbat. But you need the first 6. You need the introduction of 6. That's one idea that Rabbi Yosef Engel brings. So if you want to know why you can make a bracha with the Shem HaMalchus, it's not convention that it's Shabbos, it's reality Shabbos. Then listen to this. This is one of the most incredible tshuvas you'll ever hear. Shiur tshuvas Radvaz, Chelik Aleph, Siman Ayin Bab. Who's the Radvaz? Radvaz was born in 1480 in Spain. And, somebody's born in Spain in 1480, I'm sure you can figure out what happened to them. 1492, he leaves, yeah? Where does he go? He goes to, where do all good Jews go? Tzfas. Then they go to Yerushalayim. And then he goes to Cairo. What does he do in Cairo? He establishes a tremendous yeshiva. He wrote more than 2,400 tshuvas. Many of them are still in manuscript. Many takonos are the responsibility of the Radvaz. I'll give you an example. 3 centuries earlier, in the times of the Rambam observed that during Chazar Sashatz, people are spacing out, worse, learning, or beyond that, nobody was talking, of course, but people were not paying attention to Chazar Sashatz. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, if you're Maver Sedra during Chazar Sashatz, you have to do it again. It's a mitzvah haba b'avera. He writes it, he prints it. Anyway, So the Rambam observed nobody's paying attention during Chazar Sashas. So he abolished the silent Shemona Esrei. The Rambam abolished the silent Shemona Esrei. Therefore, nobody daven silent. You'll be yotze with the Shir Sibra. The Rambam abolished the Shtor Shemona Esrei. For how? The Rambam abolished the silent Shemona Esrei. For how long? 300 years. Until the Radvaz came along and he brought back, not the Chazar Sashatz, the Shtor Shemona Esrei. So thanks to the Radvaz, we daven the Shtor Shemona Esrei. And of course, we pay attention during Chazar Sashatz. Okay. By the way, the Radvaz had two great Talmidim. Number one, the Shita Mikubetzes. Number two, the Arizal. The Arizal was the Talmud of Rav David ben Zimra. Ask the Radvaz. The Radvaz wants to know, here, the bottom line. Here's the question. Could someone tell me, when is Shabbos? What in the world is Shabbos? You go to Eretz Yisrael, Shabbos starts, 7 hours earlier? By the way, in Masos Yishalayim, it started only 6 hours earlier. Back then, it was only 6 hours. 7 hours earlier. California, it's over 3 hours later. So when is really Shabbos? So you'll say, look, maybe Shabbos is really in Eretz Yisrael, and the Ramban writes that mitzvahs in Chutz Haaretz are not really mitzvahs. Everybody knows the Ramban. The Ramban says mitzvahs outside of Eretz Yisrael, they're not real mitzvahs, they're just practice for when you get to Eretz Yisrael. So maybe Shabbos is only really in Eretz Yisrael, and all the other hours that they keep elsewhere, it's just, getting into the motions. But says the Radvaz, even in Eretz Yisrael, there's no uniform Shabbos. The Gemara says that in Sipori, Shabbos ended later, and Tiberia it started earlier. So what Shabbos? Where is Shabbos? Where is the real Shabbos? Standing on the Har HaBayis in the middle, that's the only place that there's Shabbos. Where is Shabbos? Says Ravaz, relax. Shabbos is different than any other mitzvah. Every other mitzvah is objective. A lulav is a lulav. So in other words, let's say I don't really have a lulav, so I'm going to get I'm going to get an oak tree and shake pal, get a life. You're not doing anything. Yeah, but it looks like it. I feel good. Okay, it's very nice. You're not doing anything. There's an objective standard of what a lulav is. Not Shabbos. Shabbos is not objective. Shabbos is subjective to every individual. It depends where you're standing. If I'm standing here, right? I'm standing here, and he's standing there. So I'm in Cedarhurst, he's in Woodmere, right? That's the reality. That's the line over there, right? So for me, Shabbos begins a billionth of a second earlier and ends a billionth of a second earlier, and for him it starts a billionth of a second later. Does that mean we have different Shabbosim? Yeah. I have my Shabbos, and you have your Shabbos. There's no idea of Klal Yisrael Shabbos, the city's Shabbos. Every individual has their own particular Shabbos. Why? Why is that? Why is Shabbos different than any other mitzvah? Because Shabbos is an ois beini ubein Hashem. It's a personal covenant that every yachid has with Rebbeinu Hashem, and therefore everybody's time is dependent. There's a Yiddish expression, right? When you always have the guy. He has his own agenda. He's just in it for himself, right? He doesn't care about anybody else. So what's the expression? He makes his own Shabbos. You ever hear that? Somebody told me there's an old-time Yiddish expression. But we don't have any old people here. We only have young people here, right? But the old-timers might know that there's an old Yiddish expression. When a guy's he only cares about himself, he makes his own Shabbos. Why? Why do we say make his own Shabbos? Because Shabbos is the one mitzvah that everybody has their own deal. Everybody has their own relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's just develop this thought very quickly. He says, here's the proof. You know what the proof that Shabbos is not objective, that it's subjective? The proof is the Gemara in Masechta Shas that we just learned, that Samach Tes. The guy's lost in the desert. There's no way for him to learn and figure out where he is. And when Shabbos begins, he literally counts 6 days and he rests on the seventh day. And he makes Kiddush. What's he making Kiddush? How can he say the name of Hashem? The answer is, for him, it's Shabbos. Imagine if the guy had some kind of telescope. A guy in New York had a telescope, and he sees this guy in the midbar keeping Shabbos. It turns out it's Tuesday. So it'd be a Glatstein, it'd be the biggest joke in the world. The guy's keeping Shabbos on Tuesday. No, it's not a joke. It's Shabbos. It's Mama Shabbos. He's not allowed to do malacha. It's reality Shabbos. The two malachim come down, they'll escort him home from shul. He gets neshama yisera. All the schools of Shabbos this guy gets on a Tuesday in the midbar. Why? Because he made it Shabbos. Says the Radvaz, here's the proof. Listen to this. Now, Rabbi Yosef Engel argues on this prat, but he says an interesting thing. When this guy comes back to civilization and he realizes he messed up, he for sure switches. Does he bring a carbon for violating Shabbos? I mean, he was Machalo Shabbos. Does he bring a carbon? No. Why not? You should bring a carbon. Oh, you know why? Because he never desecrated Shabbos. Because he made Shabbos Tuesday is Shabbos, and he's good. Should he do tshuva? No, he shouldn't do tshuva. Is there anything he needs kapara for? He's a mamish. He gets shlishi the next week. He's a gewaldige yid. So Rabbi Yosef Engel says that's not a raya. Of course he doesn't bring a carbon. Because he's not a shoygeg. He might be an oines. So the laws of karbanos don't apply to him. It's not a raya that it's a reality of Shabbos just because he doesn't bring a carbon. But then the Radvaz brings another amazing raya. The halacha is, raise your hand if anybody here know a Gentile. Just checking if you're up, okay? Yeah, so the halacha is goy sheshavas is chayiv misa. If a goy rests, he's chayiv misa. Says the Gemara, not only if he rests on Shabbos, even if he rests on Sunday or Friday, halacha, he's chayiv misa. Says Ravaz, what are you talking about? But he was not Shavas. What do you mean he didn't keep Shabbos? Why is a guy who keeps Shabbos on Sunday or Friday chayiv misa? He didn't keep Shabbos. He did keep Shabbos. Because if this guy counted 6 days and rested on Sunday, rested on Friday, he kept Shabbos. Because this guy Shabbos, he's making Sunday or Friday. Shabbos is not objectively the 7th day of the week from Yisro. Shabbos is after counting 6 and number 7. Another raya, says Radvaz. Says Ravaz, the other raya is, B'chlal, don't tell me there's an objective Shabbos, and that is in Yerushalayim. Does anybody know where was Shabbos given to the Jewish people? When did Hashem give us Shabbos? Right? We say, Oz misinai nitztavu aleha. Oz misinai nitztavu. In Nusach Sar they said something else, yeah? Oz misinai nitztavu. Tzivu, yeah. Almost. In Ashkenaz they say, Oz misinai nitztavu. But either way you say, Oz misinai. Even before Sinai. What's that referring to? Mara. We know Shabbos was given at Mara. So don't say objectively Shabbos is somewhere in Yerushalayim. It wasn't given in Eretz Yisrael. It was given in Mara, somewhere near Mitzrayim. That means if you're going to say there's an objective Shabbos, it would only make sense if the objective Shabbos was somewhere in Egypt, which doesn't make any sense. It must be Shabbos is a personal cheshbon that each individual makes by counting 6 days and resting on 7. Now, if you live in civilization, you can't say, well, I'm going to start on Tuesday, count 6 days, and keep, every Tuesday. It doesn't work like that. You become batal to, but if you're out in the midbar. And by the way, I'll tell you an amazing thing. What would be if somebody went to the North Pole? Right in the North Pole, it's like 6 months day, 6 months light. Or you go a little bit lower, where it's entire year, not day or night. So when is Shabbos there? Let's say you go to North Pole. 6 months day, 6 months night. So then what? Then every 6 years is a weekday, and the 7th year is entirely Shabbos? When do you keep Shabbos then? What do you do in a civilization or in a latitude where the sun doesn't rise and set 24 hours? Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden, what?
Isn't it go by the closest town?
Closest town, the closest town doesn't have day and night every 24 hours, right? So what would you do? Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden, you do what the guy does in the midbar. Whenever you get there, you count 6 days, and the 7th day is Shabbos, meaning 24-hour periods. So you can have 500 yid in there, each one has their different Shabbos. How do we know that? From this case of somebody who went to the midbar. See, that's why you're not allowed to go to the North Pole. Nah?
We shouldn't live there. We have to go visit.
Unclear. Unclear.
Why don't you just go by the rest of the world if you know?
The rest of which country?
Any, if you know.
Eretz Yisrael?
You know the basic. You know the basic calendar.
So by Eretz Yisrael, Yom Kippur is.
There's a time zone there, so just go by whatever.
There's no time zone. There's a time zone, but there's no day and night.
Still no
There's no day and night. Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden, you follow what the Gemara says the guy in the Midbar does. You count 6 24-hour periods from when you get there, and the 7th 24-hour period is Shabbos. Okay, Mor Rabbi, this is the Shita of the Magid Meisharim of the Malach who taught the Beis Yosef. This is the Shita of the Radvaz, that Shabbos is a subjective day depending on everybody's personal relationship with Hashem. Adam, for some reason, the next day was Shabbos, even though he didn't count 6 days.
But there's a shita that everything was created on the first day and just sent into place.
So Adam really was created on the first day. Also, Adam, well, he wasn't chayiv in Shabbos. He wasn't chayiv in Shabbos. Was Adam allowed to keep Shabbos? A ben Noach that keeps Shabbos is chayiv misa. He's not a Yisrael. Okay, we'll think about that. By the way, the same thing with Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. There's a very interesting thing. The Radvaz wrote another famous sefer. The Radvaz wrote a sefer called Metzudas David. Metzudas David is a sefer of Tamei HaMitzvos al Pi Kabbalah. And he writes the same exact question and answer. Meaning, he's discussing Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There's a machlokes in the Gemara, when is the Yom Adin? Some Amoraim say the Yom Adin is one day, others say it's a different day. How could there be a dispute when the Yom Adin is, how could there be an argument? So the Metzudas David says, the Rabbi says in number 13, it's just like we say by Shabbos. Shabbos is subjective. Likewise by the Yom Adin, whenever Chazal says the Yom Adin, if you follow your Mara Derech, he says Yom Adin is this day, that's when the Yom Adin is. Elsewhere, it could be a different day. That is the position of the Radvaz. Okay? So, in other words, back to the question. This guy, on his arbitrary Shabbos, he's counting 6 days. He's making Kiddush on the 7th day. Can he say the Shem Hashem? We're saying yes. Why? Because there is a reality of Shabbos to that 7th day. That's the first approach. The second approach is, take a look in number 14. Number 14 is the Reishis Chachma. Reishis Chachma was written by Rabbi Elio Dividas. Rabbi Elio Dividas was a contemporary of the Arizal. He's the Talmud of the Marak, of the Ramak, Rav Moshe Cordovero. And we were Zoicha to be at his kever in Chevron last Monday. He's buried in the ancient cemetery in Chevron. And he says a very interesting thing. Another dimension here, why one would be able to make Kiddush on this guy, on this Shabbos, even though we don't know it's Shabbos. We all know that on the Birchas Hamazon of Shabbos we say Harachamanu Yanchilenu Yom Shekula Shabbos Umnucha L'chaya Olamim. Hashem, give us the Yom Shekula Shabbos. What does that refer to? What's the Yom Shekula Shabbos Chaya Olamim? Olam Haba. That means Shabbos is a mashal to Olam Haba. The same way says the Reishis Chachma. By the way, the Reishis Chachma, the Chidah writes that a person should learn the Reishis Chachma every single day. Every day she'll learn Reishis Chachma. It is in print. Yeah. The same way we know there's a mitzvah to remember Shabbos every day. Why is there a mitzvah to remember Shabbos every day? We say Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbos, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbos. Why is there a mitzvah to remember Shabbos every day? Because Shabbos is a mashal to Olam Haba. Like the Gemara tells us, do tshuva one day before you die. So the Gemara says, yeah, but it's not on it doesn't say on my calendar when the Yom HaMisa is. Oh, exactly, that's why you have to do tshuva every day, the Gemara says. So the reason why we remember Shabbos every day is as a mashal, to remember Olam Haba every day of our life. That's the inyan of, the Gemara says that Shammai, he would put away food on Sunday, and he would say, this is for Shabbos. And then if he found a better portion, on Monday, he would take the food he put away Sunday, he would eat it, and then he would put away the Monday portion. This way, every day he was preparing for Shabbos. Says the Gemara, why was he doing that? Because Shabbos is a remes to Olam Haba. And the same way there's 6 days of the week, and there's Shabbos, says the Reishis Chachma, interesting thing. Typical lifespan is 60 years. And therefore, if you need to prepare on Sunday for Shabbos, then even before you're 10 years old already, he says, you have to start thinking about Olam Haba. But then he says a wondrous thing. If you would make a visual image of the days of the week and Shabbos, you would make the following picture. It's on your sheet. This is the picture of the Reishis Chachma. So not only does he give us Torah, he gives us a diagram. What does this picture look like to you? I don't know, it's like the wheel of a bicycle. You have a hub in the middle, you have the spokes, and basically everything revolves around the center point. The center point is Shabbos, and the various spokes are the days of the week. There's 6 days. Does anybody know, what does the Zohar HaKadosh refer to the weekdays? He calls it Yemei HaShabbos. So we would translate that as weekdays, Yemei HaShabbos, the days of the week. No, it should be called Yemei Shavua. Why would the Zohar call the days of the week Yemei HaShabbos? The answer is, if we would make a visual representation of what the week looks like, Shabbos would be the center point. That is, Kihi Makar Kal HaBracha, it's the source of all vitality. And from there, all the 6 days of the week nourish from that day. In fact, Arizal says that when you say Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos, you should have in mind to take hashba from the previous Shabbos. When you say Hayom Yom Sheni B'Shabbos, you should have in mind to take hashba from the previous Shabbos. When you say Hayom Yom Shlishi B'Shabbos, then you should have in mind to take hashba from the previous Shabbos. When you say Revi, then you're mechavein to be mekabel the Tosefes Kedusha of the upcoming Shabbos. Fine. The whole week revolves around Shabbos. So the days of the week are not just weekdays, they're days of Shabbos. Why? Because they're nourishing from Shabbos. So there is a reality of Shabbos that every day of the week has. In fact, what do we call the days of the week? Yemei Chayil. What does Chayil mean? What's the lashon of Chayil? Chayil is the lashon of Chalal, a corpse. You know what a Tuesday is? It's a corpse. You know what a Wednesday is? It's a corpse. Why is a Wednesday a corpse? Because it's hollow. It's a lashon of Chalal also, hollow. Why is it hollow? Because it has no intrinsic vitality. All its vitality is pumped into it from Shabbos. So the entire reality of every weekday is merely whatever chiyus is being pumped into it from Shabbos. Either the previous or the future. Says the Reishis Chachma, I heard mi pi moiri. L'chayra, he means I heard from the Ramak, Ramoshe Cordovero. Do you want to know why a guy lost in the desert could make Kiddush on an arbitrary day that in all likelihood is not Shabbos? Because the answer is, every single day of the week has Kedusha Shabbos in it. Actually, without the Kedusha Shabbos, it would not even exist. The entire entity and reality of any weekday is it's Yemei Shabbata, like the Zohar says, it's a day of Shabbos. It's a day that has life only because it is Nishba from Shabbos. B'meila, you're allowed to make Kiddush because there's an element and dimension of Shabbos in every weekday. And that is why, says the Ramak, the guy in the desert, what is he doing? Is he working every day? Bare minimum. Why? Because he is in reality treating Shabbos as every single day of the week. And therefore, if every day of the week is Shabbos, he can't work. So what kind of a world does this guy? The guy is in like an alternate dimension. What do you mean every day is Shabbos? Shabbos is only one day of the week. No, it's not. The entire week is Yemei Shabbata. That's why it's called Yemei Chayil. Therefore, it is possible to make Kiddush on a weekday because of the dimension of Shabbos that the weekday has. So this is a different aspect than what the Radvaz says. The Radvaz says you can make Kiddush with Hashem's name because when the guy counts 6, he makes it into an actual Shabbos. Shabbos is subjective. That's the Radvaz. What the Reishis Chachma is saying from the Ramak is that there is a real dimension of Shabbos to every day of the week. Every day's vitality is pumped in from Shabbos. Therefore, honing in on that, one is able to make a kiddush even with the name of Hashem. And then the Reishis Chachma says one of the most mind-boggling things I ever heard. Says the Heilige Reishis Chachma, come on, you think a guy would ever get lost in the desert and not know what day it is? Nah. So we would say, yeah, it's a very important Gemara. Without this Gemara, we would never know what to do on the North Pole. We never would have thought 3,000 years ago when learning this Gemara, they didn't realize all the ramifications of it. But says Rishis Chachma, no, this is never going to happen. The whole Gemara is a mashal. What's the mashal? Who's lost in the desert? We are. What's the desert? This world. We don't know if we're coming or going. And what do we forget? We forget Shabbos. What Shabbos? Olam Haba. Who thinks about Olam Haba? Everybody. I think about Olam Haba. Really? How many times a day you check your bank account? How many times a day do you check and worry? A person goes on a trip for a week. He packs stuff that there's no way you're going to need. Maybe you're going to run out of 90 of this, so you have to pack another one. No? And what are you going to pack forever and ever and ever and ever and ever? You go away on a one-day Cholamoid trick. The amount of food that they bring in the car, it's like ridiculous. What do you worry about? You'll get food over there. No, on the way there, you never know what could happen. Even on Pesach, there's nothing to eat. You take 500 ladyfingers. How many ladyfingers could you eat already? But for that 30 minutes till you get to where you need to get, you're just going to Brooklyn. How long is it? Yeah, but the belt, you never know what can happen. So, and people pack and pack and pack, because what are they going to eat on the way? And what are you going to eat forever and ever and ever? I already did a few mitzvahs. I already learned the blat in the last decade. Yeah, but you need food to last you for a very, very long time. But we forget about Olam Haba. We forget about Shabbos. We don't know when Shabbos is. So what's the Eitzah? The Eitzah is you have to treat every day like Shabbos. What does that mean you have to treat every day like Shabbos? The Eitzah is like this. Why do people forget about Olam Haba? Because they're busy working. Why are you working so much? Because I need money. You have enough money. Yeah, but my kids need money. Why are your kids need money? Maybe they'll get a job. Yeah, but maybe they're going to learn. Maybe they're going to learn. So I have to say, who's going to support them? I don't know. And maybe my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. Ad soif kol hadoros. I have to work now because I need money ad soif kol hadoros. Yeah, what about Olam Haba? What are you going to eat in Olam Haba? They don't take American Express in Olam Haba. What are you going to learn? They take Black Gemara, mitzvahs. What? We forget about Olam Haba. So what's the Eitzah? The Eitzah is, now you don't know when Shabbos is? You don't work any day. Yoiser mikadei parnasasai. The Eitzah to remember Olam Haba is, relax, pal. You have enough money today? Well, I had enough money after working chveis, half a day. Okay, you're good to go. The rest of the day. But what am I going to eat tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe today's Shabbos. Maybe Olam Haba will beckon me today. Who says I'm going to be around tomorrow? Don't worry so much about, what's going to be in the future. Worry about Olam Haba. We're lost in the desert. We forget about Shabbos. We forget about Olam Haba. What's the Eitzah? La yasem melacha yoiser mikadei parnasasai liyoimai. Don't work more than you need just for today. Yeah, but I need to make money to have insurance in case I need, when I'm 99 years old and the old age home runs out, I'm going to need home health care. Okay. Taka, it's true. But maybe you won't make it to that. Worry more about Olam Haba. Okay, I'm not a financial planner. This is not financial advice. For financial advice, speak to your own personal. I'm telling you a hashkafa. This Gemara is not only meant as a halacha, it's meant as a mashal. The mashal is that the most important day of the week, the most important era of existence, we forget about. And the Eitzah is, make sure it's on your mind every day, right? The guy in the desert, what do we say? Hitaka can't work any day more than Kedei Parnasasai. So too with daily life. Imagine as if today is Olam Haba. Imagine if Olam Haba is beckoning today. And then, but you say, what about the Gemara says, but one day a week, You have to make Kiddush and Havdalah. Exactly. Says the Reishis Chachma, besides the fact that don't get so carried away and worried, what's going to be, every single week, ready for this? Besides Shabbos, to dedicate an entire day to Avodas Hashem. He says, why besides Shabbos? It's only one day. So Reishis Chachma says, Shabbos Avada. We would have had to keep Shabbos even had we never sinned. But now that so many days of our life have gone by, pick a day of the week. I remember Avigdor Miller used to say, tell your wife on a Sunday morning, no, Yankala, I want you to come to the department store with me. I want you to come to the mall with me. What do you need? Shoes. Say, I also have to go somewhere. I have to get Olam Haba today. Take the car, go buy shoes. Today I'm going to get Olam Haba. One day a week. Make Kiddush for Havdalah. You sanctify the whole day. So are we on that madrega? To whatever extent we're able to. Pick a day of the week. Dedicate it to Avodas Hashem. Watching what you say, watching what you look at, watching how you spend your time. Besides Shabbos, the Reishis Chachma says. The Zayar brings down a situation where Reb Chia observed there were two tzaddikim who went on the road, and they went off the road into seclusion, and Reb Chia said, no, what are you doing? And they said, we spend 2 days a week, b'Torah tefillah. What's the meaning of 2 days a week? This Gemara says that the guy who got lost in the desert, and he forgot when Shabbos is, 1 extra day, you make Kiddush for Havdalah. The rest of the week, always be worried, maybe today will be Olam Haba. Work Kedei Parnasasai Vesulai. So Rabbi say, the happy recap is like this. The guy is lost in the desert, he makes Kiddush. Does he make a bracha? He makes a bracha. Why? Ravaz's lumdus of, there's a reality of Shabbos. He makes it a reality of Shabbos. The Reishis Chachma's machshava, that there is a dimension of Shabbos in every day of the week. And then finally we learned that this Gemara is a mashal to Chaye Olam Hazeh, that we forget about Olam Haba, and the Eitzah is work only Kedei Parnasasai for that day, and dedicate one day for Avodas Hashem. And if we do that, we'll remember, that's the Eitzah, to remember the Yom Shekulei Tov, the Yom Shekulei Arach. We should taka bizoicha to have a chelek ba'olam haba. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.